Laura, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Instead of making like a top 5 perennials or a top 5 annuals list, we're going to do a tier list like the youngins are doing. So let's get into it. Okay, so what I did was I put together a list of 25 common perennials in my zone, zone 6, and I'm going to rank them into 4 different categories. The top category I have is called must have. These are plants that I think are like the best, essential to go in your garden. The next category is yes please, and then followed by maybe, and the last category is hard pass. I don't want this. So the first plant I have here is columbine. And this is columbine, also known as Aquilegia, aka Christina Aguilera. And I love columbine. I think it's beautiful. And I love that it's a spring bloomer. It's one of the earliest bloomers in the spring. And it comes in a lot of purples. So I think this is a must-have. Okay, asters. These are probably going to be a yes, please, or a maybe for me. They are beautiful, but I have heard that they can sometimes be a little aggressive, maybe even a little invasive in the more southern zones. So I love them in my garden. I haven't had a problem with them, but I also don't have a ton of experience with them. This was probably this past year was my first year growing asters. So I'm going to put this in maybe, only because I don't have enough experience to make a full judgment on that. All right, next up is Beebalm. And Beebalm is a must-have for sure. Beebalm is, there are a lot of native types of Beebalm. Beebalm is essential for pollinators. It's beautiful and it smells great. So yes, it's definitely a must-have. Hey, buddy. Next up, let's do penstemon. I love penstemon. For me, this is probably a must-have, but I don't know if everyone loves this plant. I have heard some people say it's kind of ugly. So it comes in a lot of dark foliage colors, and I love that. It's a spring bloomer. I really love that about it. And it has like a very whimsical quality to the blooms. So penstemon for me is going in must-have. How about daylilies? Daylilies, I actually am not a fan. The ones that we have here are orange. They're all orange. Now, I know they come in like a billion different colors. The only ones that I have here are orange, and I don't like them. So I'm going to hard pass on daylilies. Next up, we will do daisies. I accidentally put this on here twice, so we'll just put it on the board once. But daisies, I love. I don't have any like Shasta daisies here. The only daisies I have on the property are just wild oxeye daisies that reseed themselves kind of like crazy. They're almost a weed, but I love them. So I'm going to put them in yes, please. All right. Next up is phlox. There's a couple different types of phlox. The one I'm going to talk about is tall phlox, like the tall garden phlox, as opposed to creeping phlox. The reason I'm doing that is because I want to leave room for like other tiers. So I was going to put the creeping phlox on a separate list of ground covers. So for tall phlox, I actually ended up pulling most of these out this year, because they are very prone to powdery mildew, and the deer also love them, so they tend to get eaten before they get a chance to bloom. They're just kind of more of a pain than they're worth, in my opinion, at least in my garden. So I'm going to put them hard pass. Next up is coneflower, and coneflower is definitely a must-have. It is another one that is essential for pollinators. It's beautiful. It has very long-lasting blooms, and it's purple. So it's definitely a must-have. Next up is peonies. I was going to save this one for a shrub list, but I mean, technically it's a perennial. I don't know why, to me it seems more of a shrub. I don't know. Anyway, peonies are gorgeous. They can be a little bit of trouble though. Some are prone to powdery mildew. They topple over a lot, especially when they just bloom and then the rain comes because they're spring bloomers and then they get toppled over, and that's really annoying. So I'm going to put them in maybe, even though they are gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Next up is hardy geranium. Hardy geranium is one of my favorite plants. I love it. It's definitely a must-have for me. It might be a maybe for others because it can be a little aggressive. So I'm going to put it in yes, please, only because sometimes it can be a little aggressive in places where you might not want it. Next up, let's do Clematis. Clematis is a must-have, I think, you guys. There's so many different types, so many different colors. It's a beautiful vine. It's sometimes will bloom twice for you in a season. I love Clematis. I'm going to put it in must-have. Next up is yarrow. And yarrow, my first year that I really started getting into gardening, I grew a ton of yarrow. It's very easy to grow from seed, and it's very easy to just grow in the garden. They do a lot of their own work. They don't need a lot of fussing with, but they can also be a little aggressive. So usually you're going to end up the next year with maybe even twice what you had the year before. So I'm actually going to put yarrow in maybe, even though I love it in the cottage garden. I like the style of the flowers. I'm still going to put it in maybe. Next up is Black-Eyed Susans. And for me, unfortunately, this is going to go in hard pass. I just don't like the color, guys. I don't like yellow. I know that people love Black-Eyed Susans. They're like one of the most popular plants out there. But I just don't, I don't like the way they look. So I'm going to put it in hard pass. Next up, let's do hellebores. Hellebores are gorgeous. I need more of these. I don't have enough. I have like 2. I got one from my mom last year. She was kind enough to bring it up from North Carolina for me. And then I had ordered one last year, but neither of them bloomed. So maybe they will this coming, well, they actually are like winter bloomers. So they're definitely going in yes, please. Because these are one of the first things to bloom after the new year. So I love that. Next up, let's do salvia. Salvia, it depends on the type for me. It's going to depend on the type. The picture that I have here is of one that I grew, which is called Serious Blue Salvia. I've seen it in a couple other videos as well, and in everyone's video. It's gorgeous. So if you were going to get a salvia, I would highly recommend Serious Blue Salvia. Very easy to grow from seed, but that one is also marked as a tender perennial, so I'm not sure it would technically come back in zone 6. We will see next year, I guess. But a lot of salvias are hardy to zone 6, so I'm going to put it in yes, please, and I'm not putting it in must-have only because I don't like the smell of salvia. It smells like ammonia a little bit, like cat pee, so I don't love that. That's why I like to keep it in the front of the garden. It is kind of a must-have for me, actually, because it's pretty critter resistant. Maybe because of the smell, I don't know, but that's going to go in yes, please. Next up, we'll do alliums. Now, I was going to save alliums for a separate list of bulbs, but there's also a perennial type of allium. I don't have any in my garden, but I'm going to put it in yes, please, because I want some. All right, next up is going to be Sedum. Sedum is a must-have, for sure. Absolutely a must-have. Sedum is a top plant for me. There's so many different types. A lot of them, the smaller ground cover types, will sometimes keep their color through the whole winter. I love that. Who doesn't love that? What else? The autumn joy sedum, they're just so hardy. You don't need to fuss with them at all. They don't need water. They don't need anything. They don't need good soil. They're just amazing on their own. Sedum is a must-have. Next up, we're going to go with Nepeta / Catmint. I love Nepeta. I think it's so pretty, but I know it can be a little bit aggressive. I'm going to put it in yes, please, because it's beautiful, but it is in the mint family, and mint is known to be aggressive. Next up, let's do Milkweed, and I am going to put this in must-have because it's essential for monarchs. It is the host plant for monarch butterflies. I do not have any because it's hard to find in nurseries around me, I've found. I tried to grow it from seed before, and it's not an easy plant to grow from seed. So it's a must-have, and this year I will definitely find one to add to my garden, especially because we are starting like a rain garden, rock garden area, and milkweed doesn't mind being a little swampy. So there's actually a type called swamp milkweed, so that's great. Next up, let's go with Dianthus. And Dianthus, unfortunately, I think I'm going to put this in hard pass. Can you believe it? Dianthus is beautiful. I think it's really cute. I just haven't had much luck with it wintering over for me and actually being a perennial. The ones that are marked as perennials, a lot of the time I find that they don't come back. So I don't know what that's all about. Let me move this back because I had a little bit of a computer glitched out. The ones that I grew from seed this year, the spooky Dianthus, those are supposed to be perennial. If they come back next year, then we'll move this up in the ranking. But for right now, I'm going to put it as a hard pass. Next up, let's do Astilbe. This is another one. I do have it in my garden, but I haven't had it bloom yet. But I'm going to put this in not must-have. I'm going to put it in yes, please, because I think it's gorgeous. I just think it might be a little bit tough to grow because I've been trying to grow it. I bought bare root of it this past year, and only one of the 3 took. So I don't know what that's all about. Next, let's do Agastache, or Agastache, however you want to say it. This is a must-have for me. I love the smell of Agastache. It smells so good. And this is another one that the pollinators absolutely love. So it is a must-have. Next up is a verbena. Now, this is the lollipop verbena kind, not the annual kind like Superbena. And I'm going to put this in yes, please, because it's gorgeous. I got my first one this year. I haven't even planted it yet, but I know that they tend to spread. Hopefully not like crazy. I don't know. Maybe, are they good reseeded? Let me know. Lollipop verbena. Let me know in the comments your experiences with that. I'm excited to grow it. I feel like it looks very similar to Scabiosa, sort of. Anyway. Next up, let's do Bleeding Heart. And this is yes, please, I would like one of these. I don't have any. My neighbors behind me have one, and I can see it in the springtime, like through the fence, and it's gorgeous. So I want one. And they bloom very early in the spring, so I love that. Next is Campanula, otherwise known as bellflower. I'm going to put this in, I'll put it in maybe, since she's a little weak here. Campanula, I have another, kind of like the dianthus, I haven't had luck with it coming back for me as an actual perennial. So, whereas other people have said that it's invasive. So I don't know what's up with that. I'm going to put it in maybe. So let's go back and double check these here. Must-haves, I have Columbine. That could maybe go in yes, please. But personally, I just love it. I think it's beautiful. Columbine, Beebalm for sure. Penstemon is another personal favorite. Coneflower, Clematis, Sedum, Milkweed, and Agastache. Yes, those are all must-haves for the garden for sure. Yes, please. We've got daisies, hardy geraniums, hellebores, salvia, perennial allium, nepeta, otherwise known as catmint, astilbe, verbena, and bleeding heart. And then for maybe, we have asters, peonies, yarrow, campanula. And for hard pass, I know some people are not going to like this, but daylilies, phlox, black-eyed Susan, and dianthus. Yikes. Don't be mad. This is just my personal preference for plants. Let me know what your top plants are in the comments, or maybe ones that would be a hard pass for you. I would love to hear about that. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'm going to do this again with probably Zone 6 annuals next, and then maybe we'll do ground covers, maybe we'll do shrubs, whatever. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!